Hello and welcome to week 3 of the call-in vocation class. Thank you so much for your comments in the voice thread this last week. I really enjoyed hearing your input and your interaction there. It was fun to hear your voices, and I hope it was a way for you to feel a little bit more connected with people. Sometimes when we hear a voice, it's much different than just reading someone's text on a discussion forum. So hopefully that was helpful. We will be doing that one more time, the voice thread, on week 5. So be prepared for that. Now that you have an account, you've worked out all the bugs, it should be pretty easy. This week we're talking about a couple of items, but one thing I just want to bring to your attention, you'll be doing a life chart this week. It's posted in the course. It's essentially just a timeline, and you're going to plot up and down whether or not where you feel some of the highs and lows of your life. The point of this is I hope for you to prayerfully explore where your life has come, where your life has gone, and it's a way for you to sort of get in touch as you think about sharing your own call story. It gives you a chance to just sort of remember some of the things that you maybe hadn't thought of before. So you will scan that and upload that. I'm just checking to make sure you did it. It's not that I'm going to grade that your life was good or bad at a certain point in time. It's more that you've accomplished the assignment. So please do that. That'll be one thing you'll be doing this week. I want to talk just briefly about the topic for this week, call stories versus call narratives. And what does that mean? What do I mean by differentiating those two words, story and narrative? In both cases, I'm not talking about anything that's untrue. I'm talking about things that are true, things that have happened to us. And I would define it like this. A call story is what happened in your life. For me, I was at a friend's house. My parents were my parents' friends. I was small, and their son, who I had never met before, suggested to me that I ride a tricycle down this steep hill. Now, being a nice, compliant child at that point in time, I got on the trike and I started riding down the hill, and I went zooming down. I couldn't stop. I ended up slamming into my parents' parked car at the bottom of the hill. That's the story. Now, the narrative would be how I would interpret that story. I even gave a couple interpretations, actually, as I shared, about the boy who maybe wasn't so nice to get the stranger to ride his trike down the hill. I may tell it in a bigger picture of my life and of the high points of my life, or in this case, the low points of my life. Or maybe the narrative would be something in the medical, when I went and saw the doctor to get the stitches here and here in my head. How friendly he was and how helpful he was. And actually, I found a letter that my parents sent to them just thanking the doctor for their care and writing a letter to the editor in the local newspaper. That would be more of the narrative, kind of the understanding of what happened after the fact, after the story has taken place. So as we think about particularly the events of our life in light of our call and vocation and what that might look like, we often will frame things like, well, I heard God say to me, or God wanted to teach me, and therefore this story happened, or I grew in this way as a result of this event. So as you start thinking about those things, and as you do the reading this week, hopefully that will become a little bit more clear what I'm saying. But I want you to be thinking more specifically about the way that you narrate your stories. We all do it, and it's not wrong. It's just how we do it. As you watch one of the videos this week about a friend of mine named Paul and his relationship with a coworker named Edwin, I want you to think about even how they are telling their own story years later in a narrative form. The story took place a little bit less dramatically than what you may hear in the story on the video. Not that it isn't true, but it took a lot longer. And sometimes when we tell a narrative, we condense the time in order to make things a little bit more exciting. We don't say, and this happened on day 1, and then nothing happened on day 2, and nothing happened on day 3, and nothing happened. We squish it together to make it seem a little bit more exciting so that people will follow our story. I hope that this helps you as you think through these things. The final thing I just want to invite you to think about, one of the best ways that I think we determine our own call and vocation is to look back. And so part of what you're doing by doing the life chart and by thinking about your call story and your call narrative is to start looking back, because sometimes when we're trying to figure out what God's leading us to, as you read in the call stories of the last couple of weeks with Jesus and those Old Testament and New Testament characters, Sometimes, if God doesn't dramatically speak to us, which he does in some cases, it's best to look back and then say, where has God been faithful along the way in my story? And how does that help me move forward? We'll be talking about that more and more, and I'll share a little bit more of my story. In fact, I will on week 5. I'll share in part of the voice thread of my call story. Um, there's a very important principle at play when we think about God's faithfulness as we think about God's future. So I look forward to seeing your life chart, and look forward to seeing you in the discussion forum in the typed out version, not the voice thread version this week. Have a good time with the reading, and blessings. Be praying for you.